Namaste. This is Shivakumar, Director, IKS Changemakers, INDICA, serving and nurturing IKS Changemakers. Today, I am here to make a presentation on the Purusharthas, in particular, how one can develop a personal vision through Purushartha. All of us know that Purusharthas are Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. They are also called as Chaturvidha Purusharthas. Chaturvidha meaning the fourfold, the four form of Purusharthas. That is, all of them are the goals of life. There is a reason why it is always spoken about as Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Through Dharma, one must fulfill Artha and Kama, and in this process must strive for Moksha. This is the perspective of Bharatiya parampara. Let us now try to understand minimally what each of these four elements mean. Artha is generally known as wealth, but the wealth itself is of 8 forms, Ashtalakshmi. So, health, material wealth, money, a security in life, having a proper purpose of life are all about Artha. Kama, as we know, is the desire, our fascinations, our ambitions and so on. Dharma is that which balances Artha and Kama, not just for one individual, but for all individuals, and not just for our times, but for all times, past, present and future. Dharma is one of those concepts that is very greatly elaborated in many texts. In Mahabharata, there are many shlokas with an elaboration of Dharma and its interrelationship with various aspects of life. But one of the most famous expressions about Dharma, which is oft quoted, which is often referred to, is Dharayati iti Dharma. That is, that which sustains, that which upholds, that which keeps everything together is Dharma. In this, it must be very clear that the modern English word religion is no match to the spread and concern of Dharma. Moksha, of course, renunciation, liberation from the material world, being one with the Supreme, Parabrahman. And this is one aspect that many sampradayas of Bharatavarsha have not just greatly elaborated, but transformed the perspective into a great deal of practice on the ground. Thus we have Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Artha provides us with all instruments to fulfill ourselves. Kama is that which creates the fulfillment of the mind. But it is Dharma which sustains everything, and thus it sustains Artha and Kama for all. Not just that, it is Dharma which sustains all paths towards moksha. Thus, Dharma has a twofold responsibility to balance our material pursuits and to not just protect sacred journeys, but also encourage human beings to undertake sacred journeys. Thus, we have a twofold responsibility of dharma, and that is what is meant by dharayati iti dharma. It does not only sustain the material life, it sustains our journeys towards liberation as well. So this at the outset appears very simple, but it is not that simple. There are complexities. And the first complexity comes by recognizing that the pursuit of artha of two individuals will necessarily clash. The pursuit of kama of two individuals will necessarily clash. Hence, dharma's role in terms of sustaining artha and kama means that it resolves these artha-kama clashes on the ground. Not just that, for dharma to be able to do this on the material life, the pursuit of sacred journey, that is pursuit of moksha, is extremely important. Thus, we have four-folded interrelationship between dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Thus, the role of dharma is to organize life in such a manner that conflicts from in artha kama between individuals, between societies, between nations, between communities are well resolved so that the pursuit of the sacred is available for everybody. Which means that, as Mahabharata greatly elaborates, the interdependence between these four elements and the inherent clash requires a proper organization of life, and that is what Bharatavarsha achieved as a dharmic parampara. In due course of this lecture, we will see what all this means for an individual. So, the concern of the Purusharthas, we just spoke about what is the perspective of Purusharthas. There is an underlying concern. The underlying concern is to enable a framework of life that results in fulfillment for most of the society, but in an equitable and sustainable manner. It is not possible for everybody to have an artha kama pursuit and fulfill everything. That is the vision. That is the concern of Purusharthas. But how do we meaningfully limit it without that being oppressive? How can an organization of life limit artha and kama pursuits without the individual feeling the loss of liberty is what is the concern. And not just one individual, but all individuals, and not just for today, but for tomorrow as well. That is the concern of the Purusharthas. In summary, if we must put it in a few words, the well-being of all beings for all times is the concern of the Chaturvidha Purusharthas. Purushartha has a very good concern for the present, but without losing sense of the future. This is the essential difference between Purusharthas and modernity, where modernity draws significantly from the future and loads it into the present in terms of pleasure and pursuit. To put it in 4 words, the concern of Purusharthas is to create a beautiful today, but a sustainable tomorrow. Thus, we can see that the concern of dharma and moksha is to create sustainable artha and kama for all of humanity on the material plane. Why is moksha also concerned with this? Because it is moksha that creates the space for dharma. Without humanity pursuing sacred journey, artha kama sustainability too is impossible. This is the vision and this is the concern of the Purusharthas. Thus the Purusharthas offer us meaning, purpose, harmony and happiness in life. That is how there has never been a concern for meaning. A crisis of meaning has never occurred in Bharatiya Parampara, in spite of the fact that we have gone through tumultuous times. We have not suffered small assault in life, but even during the deepest of the assaults, even in the most deprived situations, our ancestors have never demonstrated a crisis of meaning and purpose. And there is always a pursuit of harmony. And the vision of Ananda, the happiness, has never been lost. And for that, the perspective of Chaturvidha Purushartha has played a significant role in our civilization. There is also a reason why Grihastha and Sannyasa balance is of a certain nature in Bharatiya Parampara. A Grihastha sustains today's Sannyasa, but Sannyasa sustains future Grihasthas. It is in this cyclic dependency, mutual enabling, that Bharatiya Parampara has furthered itself. Thus, it is important to note that moksha or the pursuit of moksha, the sacred journeys, are the axiomatic element, is the axiomatic element in Bharatiya Parampara. A pursuit of artha and kama is there in all societies. Dharma may not be as sophisticated as it is in Bharatiya Parampara, but a notion of ethics folded into artha kama is always there in many civilizations. But this organization of life where artha and kama are bounded by dharma which is outside of artha kama and dharma being anchored by moksha is there only in Bharatiya Parampara. Thus moksha and its sustaining of dharma is the differentiating element in Bharatiya Parampara. It is moksha that ensures that even our pursuit of happiness, even our pursuit of pleasure, even our pursuit of material is very different from other civilizations. Thus, we always look for material that is sacred. We always create experiences and material that is sacred, even on the Arthakama, even on the Bhuloka, because we know that as much we pursue non-sacred material, that much we will create conflict on the material plane. This wisdom comes from the perspective of moksha, and that is why we see that in all our sacred texts, in all our communities, the pursuit of moksha is singularly important and singularly seen as a differentiating element in our life. It is not just that we conceptualized moksha. We also transformed it into traditions and practices and customs and rituals which were accessible to all humanity for them to pursue. That is why we have various different communities, because communities then have the freedom to create their traditions, practices, customs, rituals in such a manner that a sacred journey towards moksha can be pursued by all people depending upon where they are and what their material pursuit is. Thus, the practice of the sacred journey towards moksha is real for us. Not just that, moksha is attainable in the current life itself as well, and that is how we have the term Jivan Muktas. It is not that everybody attains moksha in this life or not even in many lives, but the journey towards moksha is beautiful, is the experience of Bharatiya Parampara. It is not mere a series of struggles without ananda. At every point in life in this sacred journey, there is ananda, and that is how Bharatiya Parampara has carved the sacred journeys, and that is how people who may not attain mukti also find fulfillment in their material life in this pursuit. Thus, we have moksha as the most singular differentiator in our culture. One may ask, how did we conceptualize Chaturvidha Purushartha? Of course, Artha and Kama, that is our desire, ambition, material needs, are very obvious. But where did this conceptualization of aligning it to dharma and moksha, making it bound by dharma and moksha being the overall pursuit, how did this come about? This is a very deep question and beyond the scope of this conversation, but to give a glimpse of it, it is important to read the Srishti sections of all Puranas, which is readable by everybody. Of course, the Vedas and several sutras and smritis cover them in sutras like Brahma Sutras cover them in a great detail. But for the common man, a reading of Itihasa-Purana is much accessible, and a significant discussion of moksha is found in all those texts. The initial sections of Puranas always talk about Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, and how the universe is visualized as being in multiple cycles of Srishti, Sthiti, Laya. That is the universal tattva. It is from the universal tattva of Srishti, Sthiti, Laya that you can see the individual's Purushartha emerging from. But that is a different philosophical conversation. Suffice to say that the pursuit of moksha brings one closer to the sthiti of the universe. The higher the society pursues moksha, closer will be the universe to the sthiti, which is the most balanced state of the universe. We shall leave that for a philosophical conversation and move further now into what all this means for an individual. So let us now come back to discuss what all this means for an individual. So with this, individual has 4 pursuits: desires, which we call kama; securities, which we call artha; a sustainable life and sacred journey, which we call as dharma and moksha. So, from an individual standpoint, what this means is that one should achieve maximum possible artha and kama while creating space for others also to pursue their artha and kama. And one should have a maximum pursuit of moksha through the sacred journeys. For an individual, the complexity of Purushartha reduces into this. While this is the philosophy, a common man does not have to bother one's own self with all the complexities of the philosophy. Things must come to a common man in a very simple manner. Let us investigate how we lead our lives. We lead our lives through our aspirations. Fundamentally, we are most of the times concerned, excited, burdened by the weight of our own ambitions and the heaviness of the needs that come to us as a consequence of our ambition. To put it in other words, it is our desires and ambition that we are most of the times concerned about. What tradition does is it creates ways and means of dealing with our desires and ambitions and gently nudges us towards sacred journeys by organizing life on the principles of dharma. It does not burden us with the philosophical complexity of Chaturvida Purusharthas. Rather, it creates practices, customs, rituals that make this pursuit easy and that resolves complexities that arise out of artha and kama. Thus, most of the times, we are just concerned about becoming something, and that is quite normal. So most of the times we are anchored on our aspirations. Most of the times we are pursuing something to fulfill our desires, to become secure in life, but that requires a healthy society, which all of us are able to recognize even without having philosophical clarity. And a healthy society requires dharma. Not just that, we all recognize beauty in spirituality, in pursuit of sacred journeys towards moksha. Thus, we live our lives in 4 seemingly separate tracks, but they are not separate, but we are not bothered about the interdependence. All we do is to pursue our desires, to become secure in life. We all want our life futures to be secure. But we look towards having a healthy society, even for our desires and security. We at the same time want to be able to access divine experiences at all times. So Chaturvida Purushartha, thus removing all its complexities, come in 4 tracks for us. And we should be able to navigate these 4 tracks meaningfully in our lives. All this complexity exists today simply because life has become more individualistic. In times when life was led completely within an individual, within a community, the traditions, customs, practices, rituals of the community anchored the lives of people so well that they did not have to burden themselves of navigating themselves in these 4 tracks. With the dawn of modernity, with the breakdown of the community, with most of life being led between a nuclear family and high order of individuality, it is necessary for individuals themselves to have a higher order clarity of Purushartha, even if not philosophically, at least have some clarity of being able to navigate in these four tracks. That is how the Chaturvidha Purusharthas are relevant in the 20th and 21st centuries. Let us now think of some ways in which an individual can develop thinking about Purushartha. If Purushartha is about Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, one should be able to ask questions on each of these elements and develop some clarity about them. So with respect to desires, most of us have some clarity. Rather, it is the natural tendency of a human being to have desires. And if most individuals reflect upon it and are able to respond to questions such as what are my desires, what are my ambitions, and why should I pursue all this? Yet there is a small difference between a desire and an ambition. A desire is that which somewhat naturally raises within our minds, whereas ambition, there is a will and choice and a conscious application of the mind which creates an ambition. Thus, our Kama is a complex combination of desire and ambition. But when it comes to the level of Artha, there are more questions that need to be answered. A lot of whys have to be answered. If I have a desire, one should be able to answer, why do I have these desires? What should I do to fulfill my desires? How do I fulfill this? How to exist well? How to thrive well? How to survive in this universe, not just today, but tomorrow also? What all I must do to achieve this? What brings some meaning to my life? All of these questions are those that resolves the complexities that desires and ambitions bring. Thus, Artha makes our desires and ambitions take firm root in a meaningful and productive manner so that it does not fly around everywhere. If we are able to ask and answer these questions, we have developed some clarity with respect to Artha and Kama. There are several other such questions, but these questions will further lead to other questions and ensure that at Artha and Kama level, that is desires and securities, we develop some clarity. And most of us develop some clarity on these matters with or without guidance. And when there is guidance, we develop greater clarity. A good reading of Mahabharata will give us very good clarity on our desires, ambitions, and securities and needs. Yet, there are some higher order questions that need to be answered. We need to recognize that Artha and Kama will always clash. The moment we begin to ask questions such as, whose Artha and Kama are getting hurt with my own pursuit of Artha and Kama, then we are entering into the space of Dharma. We should be able to ask, do my Arthakama pursuits hurt my family members, community, society, nation, universe, and be able to answer definitively. Today, in a high individualistic life where education does not teach us the fact that our desires can be hurting other entities in this universe, such a question may sound ridiculous. I've often posed this question to young students, asking them what their ambition is, which they are able to write very well. The moment the question, who is it hurting, it sounds meaningless to them. It is difficult for people to imagine that a pursuit of our own ambition can be hurting others. It's important to note that if we are building a road, somebody will have to sacrifice their land. And even if we are paying compensation, it is never a complete compensation. Being able to recognize such conflicts and being able to resolve them meaningfully is what brings dharma. And to be able to think of all that within our own personal lives makes our own pursuit of artha and kama more meaningful, productive, and it brings more happiness to all concerned. In the past, families have had to sacrifice the education of one member in order to fulfill it for the other member. Today we are in a better situation. Yet, every family member is dependent on each other in some ways is something that we have to recognize. Once we are able to recognize clashes of artha and kama between family, between community, between societies and nations, we should be able to ask higher order questions. How do I serve the family, the community, the nation well? This is the positive side of dharma. Not just that, we should also step into asking questions such as, how do we protect the divine pursuits of people around me to nation, which is also part of dharma. Which is, dharma thus becomes not just pursuing artha kama moksha of my own self, but also enabling that pursuit for family, community, nation and universe. Of course, you enable this pursuit for your family in a direct manner, but you enable this pursuit for community, nation and universe through institutions, traditions, practices, policy and so on. Thus, every act of yours, including making an electoral choice, becomes dharma. Thus, Chaturvidha Purusharthas are about not just organizing that for your own life, but making your own personal choices in such a manner that others' pursuit of Purushartha is also enabled. Thus, finally, it is also about asking questions such as, how do I pursue the divine well? How do I protect the divine well? How do I harness the potential of the divine to bring greater happiness to the world? How do I invoke the divine for the well-being of all beings? And of course, rishis and munis will think of the next level, which is, how do I make the divine rise? And how do I bring the divine on the earth itself? Which is not the pursuit of the common man. Thus, there are specific questions that can be asked on our own pursuits of dharma, artha, kama, moksha in such a manner that it is also aligned with the dharma, artha, kama, moksha of family, community, society, nation and the universe. Thus, bringing about a harmony in our Chaturvidha Purushartha pursuit with that of others at the smallest entity level of family to the highest entity level of universe. That is the opportunity space that Purushartha brings. And all of this need not be done consciously in every action, because we have good institutions in the society, in the tradition, in the religion. All of this comes somewhat more easily. It's just that we need to recognize that and enable that pursuit. So now we are in the my Purushartha versus others Purushartha, a vision development template slide. Thus, we can see in this diagram that the pursuit of Purushartha, of self, being well aligned with the pursuit of Purushartha of others, is how we realize a harmonious universe. There are three possibilities in every pursuit of ours. We may be either contributing to others' pursuit, possibility 1. Possibility 2 is we may be not contributing, but we may not be harming either. Possibility number 3 is our pursuit of something may be harming another's pursuit. So these three pursuits are called Uttama, Madhyama, Adhama. Always in the Bharatiya parampara there are three possibilities. It's never Uttama and Adhama. There is always a Madhyama, which is where most of us will be. Thus, we can see that in our fulfillment of karma, we may be contributing to somebody else's karma. We may not be contributing and we may not be harming also. We may be harming. To be conscious of whether we are contributing or neutral or harming, that is whether we are in the Uttama, Madhyama, Adhama space, is how we evolve as a human being. That is the vision of the Purushartha. That is how we develop a personal vision, by asking this question. So as you can see in this table, there are 16 different spaces where we can ask this question. My pursuit of my karma, is it fulfilling somebody else's karma? Is it fulfilling somebody else's artha? Is it fulfilling somebody else's pursuit of dharma? Or is it contributing to somebody's divine experiences? That is how we can ask this question to all our pursuits. Thus you can see we can ask this question in 16 different ways, and in each of these 16 different ways you can get an answer of whether I am in a Uttama space or Madhyama space or Adhama space. If somebody is in a Uttama space in all of these cells, then one must be leading an extraordinary dharmic life, which will probably very less number of people. But an average man must strive for at least to be Madhyama in all of these, and in Uttama in some cells. And an average man must strive for not being Adhama in any of these spaces, which is also hard. We realize in life that however hard we are, however well we strive to live, we will always have some pursuit of ours harming others. But the good thing is to be able to recognize that and compensate for that. This thinking is possible through the Chaturvidha Purushartha. We must be conscious which material pursuit of ours is destroying somebody else's sacred pursuit, which is the worst. But if this thinking starts, we will get there. In a well-lived community life, nobody needs to ask these questions explicitly because the organization of life itself is such, these things get taken care. But in a highly individualistic modern life, it is necessary for every individual, or at least some individuals, to carry this burden so that we are configuring and reconfiguring life well for this pursuit of everybody. Now let's now see what this framework of Purushartha, what kind of journeys and what kind of persona it creates. As we see, there are different people pursue different complexities in their lives. Rather, at different points in time, we are pursuing different things in life. At some point in time, we are pursuing our karma much more. When we are young, it's our desires and ambitions that we are full of. As we grow a little bit and develop a better perspective of life, we begin to think of artha. We realize that not just today, but tomorrow is also extremely important. And we also realize that life must have some higher order meaning. Several people spend their life in a meaningful pursuit of artha and kama only. But a lot more people will think of the society, the organization of the society, what brings good to everybody, and so on. So they are occupying a higher order dharma space. And several people consciously or subconsciously have a higher order pursuit of the divine in their lives. So at different points in time, different people have different combination of this pursuit. At the same time, we all will be contributing to others. This slide represents how to think of our contribution to others based on Purushartha. If I am in my artha and kama pursuit and I am also contributing to others' artha and kama, then I am living an individual's life. If I am pursuing my own kama and artha, but I am also contributing to others' dharma and their divine pursuits, then I am a societal man. I am still young. My own maturity has not grown into dharma yet, but still I am contributing to others' higher order pursuits. You can see several people, typically activists, are in this space. They are themselves fulfilling their own ambitions, but they also want to contribute to the society also. But then there are people who have fulfilled their artha and kama in a significant way and have developed the ability to think of the society, and they are also contributing to others dharma, artha, kama, moksha. They are the civilization makers of the universe. Then there are people who have fulfilled artha, kama of their own and who have a higher order perspective of dharma, but they are already renunciating things in life and they are able to contribute to artha, kama resolution and higher order dharma and moksha in the universe. They are the gurus and the saints and the rishis, who we can call as 4 different levels of renunciates. Thus, the Purushartha pursuit and how we contribute to others' Purushartha results in 4 different kinds of leaders. The individual leaders, the societal leaders, the civilization makers, and the renunciates. Thus, we have these examples of the Purushartha leadership roles. In the Artha Kama space, you can see that you have evolving brahmacharis and established brahmacharis, evolving professionals and established professionals. Pursuing their own Artha Kama, but also contributing to others' Artha Kama. Most people live their life in this space. They do not think of higher order things. They build their own Artha Kama, but they are good enough contributing to others' Artha Kama pursuits. They know their boundaries well. It's good to be this. Everybody need not be taking higher responsibilities, but if everybody is contributing to their own immediate ecosystem, that is a good thing. But several people want to cross this boundary and get into higher order boundary of Purushartha. I am pursuing my own desires and ambitions, but I want to contribute to the society. So this is social activism of modern kinds is typically like that. Most student activists, there are students who become activists at the age of 15, 16. Sometimes very risky because they're not ready yet to appreciate all dimensions of life, but they have the ambition to serve the society. So there are early social activists or early religious activists. You can see several religious activists in their 20s. With some experience, they evolve into becoming professional social activists and professional religious activists. There is nothing wrong in being able to contribute at higher order level, but one must know that one is not ready and requires guidance. Being in this space means if you are alone and wanting to be an activist without the right spiritual guidance, then the possibility of entering into dangerous area is high. That is how we see in our times several young people becoming activists but crossing boundaries and creating deeper problems than actually being able to solve problems. Thus, trying to serve others' dharma and moksha while you are yourselves in your own artha and kama is a somewhat dangerous proposition and requires the presence of a guru. Otherwise, it is likely that you are going to slip. But in our country, Bharatavarsha always has seen a higher order civilization making people. who have fulfilled their artha and kama, or who have a significant amount of fulfillment of their own artha and kama, and now they are in the dharma space, either contributing to their own communities or contributing to the economy or contributing to the society or contributing to the religious order. So thus we have 4 different kinds of institution builders: a community maker, an economy maker, a society or polity maker, or a religious institution maker. This is a safe space as long as one is significantly fulfilled one's own artha and kama. The emphasis of grihasthashrama in Bharatavarsha is for this reason, that unless you have contributed to the artha and kama of your own family and community, your ability to make the society is that much lesser. It's a prerequisite for a society builder to be able to have already built the family and the individual. Of course, when your own renunciation has begun, then from community maker you become a community guru. From an economy maker you become an economy guru. From a social institution maker you become a social institution guru. And finally, from a religious institution maker you may become a religious guru or a rishi. And the last cell of the rishi is for people who can be counted in our fingers. At all times, they will be very less in number. Thus, Chaturvidha Purushartha enables us to imagine what it takes to live in each of these spaces. Thus, life can be roughly organized into 16 different spaces where our own pursuit of Purushartha maps in a specific way to others' pursuit of Purushartha. And it clearly shows what are the prerequisites to be in each of these spaces. The important thing is the others in the slide can be our own family members or our own community or the nation itself or the universe. Such a map is possible to be drawn for different comparison sets. Thus, Purushartha not just offers us a way of thinking about going our lives in a meaningful way in relation to others. It is also possible to think of 16 different types of leaders in any context. For instance, we can have 16 different types of scholars based on this. We can have 16 different types of institution makers based on this. Thus, it allows us to think of individuals in dharmic ways to be well connected with the universe in 16 different ways for every specific role or a context. Thus, Chaturvidha Purushartha offers not just a vision, a framework, a tool to create a personal vision for ourselves. It also enables for such a vision to be created for every context, for every role, including the nation. Thus, it is a tool to arbitrate our own desires and ambitions and ensure that it is most harmonious and least harming to the universe. Thus, Chaturvidha Purushartha is a harmony-making instrument for the universe, apart from uplifting an individual to lead a happy life and proceed towards moksha. And even if you have not attained moksha in this life, at each step in your life, a higher order ananda is available to you in this beautiful journey of Chaturvidha Purushartha. Namaste.